But welcome everyone to the final Black History Month event celebrating the power of Black women, our victories, vision, and voice. I will be your MC for this afternoon. My name is Bertrine Cage. I am an employee with the City of St. Paul. I am also a member of the Black History Month Planning Committee that plans some awesome events. We want to welcome all of our commissioners, our city councilmen, former mayors, we want to welcome everyone, all of the city and county officials that are here. Thank you so much for coming. We started this month at Ramsey County with a panel of Black women in leadership positions doing great work for the county. Then we transitioned to the U of M Mapping Prejudice Project, and last week we had a panel of incredible Black women in leadership roles with the city, helping to champion the cause that's led by our mayor, Mayor Carter. And today we're so honored to hear from history. Not only was she the first African American, but also the first woman to be elected as mayor of Minneapolis. Please welcome Mayor, well, not welcome, but just give a big round of applause for former Minneapolis Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton. I also would like to thank our Black History Month Planning Committee that put all of this on. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that you may not see, but if you're interested in being a part of our committee, you can see me. If there's anyone that's on the committee that's in the room, can I just get you to stand, please, so everyone can just see who you are? We're all busy. You can stand there. Sorry, Naomi's the only one in the room. Everyone else is out working. But again, if you're interested in being part of the planning committee, you can see us and we would love to have you. Um, as we start our program, we are honored to have one of the Twin Cities' premier singers. You can find her singing anything from jazz standards to pop tunes, R&B, gospel, Motown. She's a trained vocalist and graduate from the University of Minnesota. So can you please stand as Asia Parham leads us in the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come, over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come, trudging the path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last. When of our bright star is cast, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might brought us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the path, oh my God, where we led thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand.
Okay.
May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you so much, Asia. We have another history maker that was not able to physically be in our presence with us, but she did not want this day to pass without acknowledging its significance. Commissioner Tony Carter is the first African American ever to serve on a county board in the state of Minnesota. And now she's still making history as the first African American and woman to serve as the chair of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. Please turn your attention to the screen to hear a greeting from one of our own history makers, Commissioner Tony Carter. And as soon as the video is complete, we will have the county proclamation read by Commissioner Carter's administrative assistant, Mrs. Beverly Hammond.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Power of Black Women. I'm Commissioner Tony Carter, greeting you today from the nation's capital, where I and other Ramsey County commissioners are at the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference. We're joining with county representatives from across the country, working to advance national policy and also advocate for resources to serve our communities. I want to thank each one of you for attending today. And a very special thanks to the Black History Month Committee of St. Paul and Ramsey County for this month-long commemoration of the struggles, the sacrifices, strengths, and successes of generations of African-descended people here in America, most having been settled through captivity, yet embracing the U.S. as homeland, legally disenfranchised in the world's most cruel and brutal system of slavery that condemned men, women, and children as property for life for a period of over 250 years. So this month's theme highlights the rugged resilience of women who, through their engagement and work and through organizing and lifting their voices, have persisted individually and alongside others in the quest to be included and to lead in shaping a world in which all of us want to live. At the top of the month, I was honored to participate in a representative panel of St. Paul and Ramsey County women leaders, sharing stories of vision, victories, and voice. It was an uplifting and insightful Sankofa session, sharing lessons from our past to build our future. And today you'll enjoy insights from a Twin Cities legend, my friend and Churchill relative, Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton, the first African American to be elected a mayor of a Minnesota city, Minneapolis. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. I just wish I were there with you. One final thought. As we close out this February Black History Month program, we all know that 29 days is not nearly enough to lift up, welcome, and be impacted by the strong, unique, and courageous voices of Black women. Fortunately, they're with us all through the year, informing our vision, values, goals, and our work to achieve our aspirations in Ramsey County and in St. Paul, to be a vibrant community where all are valued and thrive, or to be the most livable city in America. So as we embrace these voices, we impact our work, we engage with these visions ever more avidly. Enjoy the gathering. See you soon in St. Paul and Ramsey County.
Let's give another round of applause to honor our history maker, the Honorable Tony Carter. On her behalf, I'm honored to read the proclamation for today. Whereas in 1926, Dr. Carter Godwin Woodson launched the celebration of Negro History Week, and whereas February 1986 marked the beginning of National Black History Month to honor, recognize, promote, and preserve Black history and culture. Whereas the theme for the 2020 County, Ramsey County, and City of St. Paul Black History Month observance is the power of Black women. And whereas Ramsey County recognizes, supports, and respects the power and voices of Black women in strategic priorities, policies, programs, and services, partnerships, and other ways. And whereas Black women have and continue to set many notable historical contemporary examples as a powerful force and voice for social change, nationally, locally, civilly, professionally, and academically, to shape a future that secures fundamental rights of self-determination and racial justice. Whereas Black women continue to build legacies, serve as leaders of movements, organizations, and institutions, and guide families and communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners recognizes February 2020 as Black History Month in Ramsey County. And be it further proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners urges all Ramsey County employees and residents to honor, celebrate, and support Black women as they hold deep roots of wisdom, progress, and resilience. Here it is. Thank you very much.
I felt like I was in church. I was going to say amen. Thank you, Miss Beverly. Next, Shay Cage is a writer, a performer, director, and producer. Her work has taken her across the U.S. and internationally to West and South Africa, Japan, France, England, the Netherlands, Canada, and more. She's been a change maker, one of the leading artists of her generation, and a mover and maker. She was seen last on stage as Lady Capulet in Romeo and Juliet at the Guthrie, and recently directed Bob Marley's Three Little Birds at the Children's Theater, which closes March 1st. So make sure you go get your tickets. Shay is the recipient of several awards, including regional Emmys, Ivies, McKnight, and TCG Fox Fellowships. She enjoys gardening and playing basketball with her children. Please welcome performer and community activist, Shay Cage.
I believe in the spirit of call and response, so I just want to know what the pulse is in the room. So I was invited to this room to celebrate Blackness, Black women and their greatness. And if you were invited to the same space, just in case you got the wrong ticket, turn to your neighbor and say, Black women are great. Okay, I think we're all in the same place for the right reason. We stand on the backs of those who touch the bottom of the ocean's floor, ride on the wings of butterflies to face our reflections in the mirror and smile. At daybreak, we walk the path of the chosen ones. We are majesty, manifested in black female form. But we are far from Maybelline clean. Look in our eyes, you'll see what I mean. For we are stretch marks across women's bodies, histories tracing back to sacred ancestries. We are glass houses, and like antiqued mirrors, we hold stories and broken blue-black, high yellow, butter-toasted midnight sky secrets, triumphs, celebrations, and hard-knocked living lives between these lips. 2, Black women, our voices, victories, and values exist because of the work that you have done. You are a multitude of multicolored quilt woven together with sweat and determination, long hours, risk-taking, and so much sacrifice, showing up in ways unimaginable, and accomplishments, and every triumph worthy of celebration. 3, may we nod to those long nights turned into days, to the toil of your labor. May we take great pride in your success and liberation. May we acknowledge the trailblazing Black women who prove every day that feminine power is undeniable in the shaping of the world that we live in. This is an ode to you. Oprah Winfrey said in What I Know, her book, you can either waltz boldly onto the stage of life and live the way you know your spirit is nudging you to do, or you can sit quietly by the wall, receding into the shadows of fear and self-doubt. I chose to waltz. So may we recognize the Black women geniuses who revolutionized everyday tasks with their inventions, from the precursor to the call button on airport seats, to the clothes dryer. The woman who invented the ringer is what she called it, sold it for $18. And all of us are thankful for that dryer. To the woman who patented the ironing board as we know it now, all Black women, and other women who were brown and Black, who broke the ceiling in the business world, fought for our freedom during the civil rights movement, pushed for inclusion and diversity in the media, those who used artistic talent and creativity to pave the road easier for the next generation. I mean, welcome to the era when Black women reign supreme. For in the year of 2020, that's now, y'all, we are witnessing the first time in history when Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss America are all Black women. I know without a doubt they are all thankful themselves for the self-made millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker, who invented some of the first Black hair products. If you don't know who C.J. Walker is, turn to your neighbor and say, you better know. Black hair products. You better ask somebody right now. And that woman became a millionaire, and we are benefiting from her products today. She said, I want the great masses of my people to take a greater pride in their personal appearance and to give their hair the proper attention. Because she had spent so many years using white products on her hair. She said, there must be something better for us. So she did the work. 4, let the legendary poet Maya Angelou, her poetry and phenomenal women be lifted up today. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit or fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms and the span of my hips, the stride of my steps. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. You see, I walk into a room just as cool as you please. And to a man, the fellas stand or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes and the flash in my teeth, the swing in my waist and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me coming, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. 5. Black women, our voices, victories, and values. I love that title. We exist because of the work that you have done. You have inspired Black women all over the world, ones that are far and ones that are right beside you. Let us be inspired by greatness, great voice, great victories, and values that are rooted in Blackness. Let us be reminded of the richness of the legacies we inherit. Let us channel the voice of Harriet Tubman, who said, if you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Just keep going if you want a taste for freedom. And that woman risked her life time and time again to bring others to freedom. She was already free, but she kept going back. And so I challenge those of us today, how are we reaching back? And while there are familiar heroes around us, Rosa Parks, C.J. Walkers, the Hattie McDaniels, the Ella Bakers, the Mary McLeod Bethunes, the Josephine Bakers, the Coretta Scott Kings, let us not forget about the names that are sometimes lesser spoken, that are also Black female giants, the Amelia Boydens, the Janes, the Daisy Bates, the Miriam Makebas, the Alexa Kennedys, the Claudette Colvins, the Marsha Johnsons, the ones who actually helped to put men on the moon, the first Black computers, as they were called, the Sharon Sayles-Beltons. Like many of these women, Sojourner Truth's fire and determination prevailed. She said, if women want any rights, if they want anything that they ain't got, well, why don't they just take them and don't be talking about it? I love that. It's like, when do we just step up and take what's ours? So that's about claiming space. 6. Black women, our voices, victories, and values exist because of the work that you have done. You legendary poets, you authors, you activists that fought for change, you journalists who were unafraid to speak truth, you inventors of Black products, you congresswomen, you mayors, you lawyers and doctors at a time where there were so few like you scientists, you astronauts, you Oscar-winning actresses and prime ministers, you. Mari Evans' poems come to mind. I'm a Black woman. It is an ode to you. In her softest voice. I am a Black woman, tall as a cypress, strong, beyond all definition still, defying place and time and circumstance, assailed, impervious, indestructible. Look on me and be renewed. So when the road gets dark and dank, let us be renewed. In the words of Gwendolyn Brooks to Black women, she said, sisters, where there is cold silence, no hallelujahs, no hurrahs at all, or handshakes, or neon red or blue, no smiling faces, please prevail. It has been a hard trudge with fainting, bandaging, and death. There has been startling confrontation, but there remains large countries in your eyes, shrewd sun, the civil balance, the listening secrets, and you create and train your flowers still. In closing, 7, Michelle Obama said, when you come from a council estate, whether you come from a council estate or a country estate, your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. So whether you come from a council estate or a country state, your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. She spoke truth. She reminds us that we as Black women are already born in greatness. So let us embrace that, treasure that, and claim that which has always been ours, not just in Black History Month, but Black history is every day of the year. And Black history is not just for the United States. We celebrate Black female giants all over the world. 7, does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I'll walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Who's that author? That's Maya again. We're closing out with Maya. She was the first poet that turned me on. I found my voice through Maya, and I will never forget her. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a Black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Ashe to Black women everywhere.
Thank you so much, Shay. Now we will have remarks by the man with the master plan to help build a St. Paul that works for all of us, Mayor Melvin Carter. He will also introduce our keynote speaker, former Mayor of Minneapolis, Sharon Sayles-Belton. Please welcome Mayor Carter.
Good afternoon. You know, I find myself asking myself, what am I doing on this program, on this agenda today? Especially coming after Shay Cage. Thank you so much. Wasn't that amazing? Somehow I got slated in between Shay Cage, and Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton. And somebody's going to have to answer for that in my office when I get back upstairs. Shay evoked Harriet Tubman. And that quote, when I sit at my desk, there's a sculpture that's on the wall behind me that has Harriet Tubman. It's a sculpture by Setu Jones, who I know many of you are familiar with, St. Paul artist. And it has that quote sitting right above my shoulder every time I sit at my desk. And Harriet Tubman, I think, evokes the spirit of black women. Harriet Tubman was born into and grew up into that system that we call American slavery, that most heinous of systems, of human-created systems on the planet that existed for those 250 years our county board chair was talking about. And she escaped, fought, clawed, ran her way to freedom, and found that her securing her own freedom was not nearly enough. And did something that I think most of us would think of as unimaginable. And that is turn around from a situation of freedom and go right back into the belly of the beast that she had just escaped. History says 19 times, I would say at least 19 times that we're aware of, to help hundreds of others find their way to freedom. And so we're here today to celebrate black women. And for some reason, I'm a man on the agenda. But let me tell you, I stand here, my every breath I take is an ode to amazing black women. From Sharon Cage. Shay Cage. I call her Sharon because when I was in high school, Sharon Cage was a mentor of mine, was a counselor, a guidance counselor of mine at a summer camp that I went to, who's invested in me in my life. From Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton, who is a family member of mine, a forerunner of mine, a friend and a mentor in every single way, to our county board chair, who has invested in me quite a bit as well throughout the course of my life. That's a joke. Many of you know that our county board chair is also my mother. And I will tell you, I learned from an early age not to follow black women. Because when I first ran for city council, people would ask me, now you get to see your mom do this. Is this what makes you feel like you can do it? And I would always say, no. I'm not saying I can do what she does. I'm just saying I want to do something on my own scale. My mother taught me. Sharon Sayles-Belton taught me. Shay Cage taught me. I'm going to get it right before the end of the day. Their leadership isn't about blame. You know, we see on the national stage and on the world stage right now, leaders who consider themselves leaders, who call themselves leaders, when there's a problem, seeking to find somebody else to blame. Harriet Tubman wasn't to blame for slavery, but she identified her responsibility to pull people out of it. And that's one thing that I learned from my parents that I'm trying to pass on to my children right now. Leadership isn't about blame, isn't about placing blame. It's about taking responsibility. And I want to get out of your way because I definitely want to hear what Mayor Belton has to say. But I get to introduce to you a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, a teacher of mine, a forerunner of mine, who has embodied that, who has taken responsibility, who found a city, Minneapolis. You know, when I was a child, you remember people talking about Murderapolis, and who found a city at the height of grappling with violent crime, who found a city with a downtown that had a troubling office vacancy rate, that was trying to find its stride, trying to find its space, trying to find its potential. We know what downtown Minneapolis is today. And Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis, made maybe its most wise decision in the history of that city. They said, we need a St. Paulite to lead us. We need somebody from St. Paul's Rondo neighborhood We need somebody who went to Central High School. We need somebody who went to McAllister College. We need somebody who's trained in St. Paul to bring St. Paul type of solutions to this city, Minneapolis. And I would say it worked pretty well. I'm not lying, right? And when Mayor Belton left office, the city of Minneapolis had its lowest violent crime rate in decades. The city of Minneapolis was thriving with building entertainment districts and corporate headquarters and office space downtown at a rate that it had never had before that. And the city of Minneapolis was moving forward. The last thing I'll tell you is this job as mayor can be a really lonely task. It can be a really lonely and isolating job. And I get to do this, and I'm thankful every day that I'm part of this national network of in particular African-American mayors who support each other like crazy. And I walked into a space the 3 weeks after I became mayor at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I was on the phone with our deputy mayor, and somebody looked at me and just held out a business card like this in the hotel lobby. And I looked up, and it was Mayor Shirley Franklin, the historic mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. And I got a chance to get to know some of these historic mayors across the country, mayors that you know well, from Michael Coleman, who served as mayor of Columbus, Ohio, to Wellington Webb, who served as mayor of Denver, to Willie Brown, who served as mayor of San Francisco. And there's this to Mayor Cory Booker, who I got a chance to sit down with, and I asked him about the likelihood that he'd run for president and all of this stuff. And he said, no, that's not what this conversation is. You're a young black mayor. I want to know how I can help you, not how you can help me. And I want to tell you this. When I thank those mayors for being that kind of support system around me, to a person, they all look at me and they say, hey, you're from Minnesota, right? And I say, yeah. And they say, I'm just paying forward what Sharon Sayles-Belton did for us. So without further ado, thank you so much. We're happy to have you in your home city, St. Paul, Minnesota, Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton.
Well, that was a super awesome introduction, particularly because you claim my roots here in St. Paul. And so I so very much appreciate that. Mayor, you commented about being, on the podium when we're having a conversation about the power of women. And I wanted just to say that I was supported as a young mayor by African American mayors that were more seasoned than I. So Wellington Webb, took me under his wing. Dennis Archer, who was the mayor of Detroit, Michigan, took me under his wing. Mark Morial, who was the mayor of New Orleans, took me under their wing. And these are mayors of much bigger cities than Minneapolis, and they could get indoors and have conversations with key federal leaders that I couldn't, just have, given the fact that I was from Minneapolis, right? And they took me with them everywhere they went. They opened doors for me day after day. And I owe a great debt of gratitude to those three individual African American men. So you have every right to be in this room, but you have every responsibility to help us continue to grow and prosper. Okay? So to my sister, Shay Cage, I just want you to know in my job at Thomson Reuters, I've had the opportunity to bring Shay, to our company so that she could have the opportunity to meet our 5,000 employees so that they could get to know the power of her work. And Shay, we were just at the Children's Theater. We bought the house out on Saturday afternoon so that we could bring all our employees and their children to see your production of Three Little Birds. Okay? And I want you to know why we did that. We did this because at Thomson Reuters, we really are trying to make a commitment to diversity and inclusion. And we know that we have to get into the heads of all the adults that are in the room, because when we get into the heads of all the adults in the room, they're going to carry that message to their children. And then we created this opportunity through Three Little Birds and your production to create an atmosphere for adults to be able to communicate the values of inclusion through that artistic program that you put together. That's the way that we leverage the power of African American women, and we need to figure out how we can do that over and over and over again. That's how change occurs. So I am happy to be in both of your presence today, and I consider you both to be friends and colleagues, and there is so much more that we're going to be able to do together going forward. Now, I've entitled my presentation today, The Power of Us, because I really want to talk about Black women, but I also want to talk about the power of us, the power of the people who are in this room to facilitate and build change, because that's what we're really looking for. We need stronger, more powerful building blocks so that we can have a bright future. I appreciate and thank the St. Paul Ramsey County Committee that invited me to come today. And I especially want to give a shout out, I'm not sure she's in the room anymore, to Deb Calvert, who I must have about 25 emails from this woman, making sure that I got here on time and I knew what I was supposed to do. So thank you so much for that, Deb. You are on the ball. I want to start by talking just a little bit about myself, and again, this is not going to be a presentation about me, because if you want to read about me, go to Wikipedia. It won't all be accurate, but you can just kind of get a flavor for who I am. So this is not about me. This is really about the power of us. But I do want to acknowledge that Melvin is right. I'm from St. Paul, and I grew up in the Rondo neighborhood. And I will tell you that the Rondo neighborhood was one of the most high functioning middle and working class African American neighborhoods in the upper Midwest. It was a thriving community, and I could close my eyes and just visualize everything about that was great about that community. I can visualize, and some of you who are, of my age will remember the Dixie Cream on University. Some of you will remember Bolt's store on the corner of Fuller and Victoria. You will remember Maxfield Elementary School, not the new one, but the old one. There are so many things about our community that were strong and vibrant and just absolutely wonderful. You know how Garrison Keillor talks about his little Lake Wobegon? We had our own little Lake Wobegon right in the middle of St. Paul, and it was called Rondo Neighborhood. Everybody looked out for each other. We took care of each other. We had doctors that came to our homes, African American doctors that came to our homes and took care of us. It was a thriving community. You went to church, and the people who were, in church teaching you your Sunday school lessons were the neighbors, across the street. I mean, it was really a wonderful community, and it was with great pride that I called it my home. And when I look back over the history of the city of St. Paul, I actually see my neighbors who are role models to me, having served in positions of leadership here in the city of St. Paul. Corky Finney, a neighbor. Corky Finney's daddy, somebody who looked out over our community. John Griffin, a neighbor. He lived right around the corner from me. There just count Katie McWatt. You couldn't go anywhere in our community without seeing people in leadership roles who were from our community. And I am the product. I am the product of all of that.
I mean, I tell you the story of my own family, but if I do that, we'll be here all day and we don't have time. But my family served as role models to other people who lived in our community. It was a community of people who were always giving back and always planting seeds in their children to be their best, to be excellent. And I think we were. I'm looking at Melvin, my cousin, and saying, hey, Tony and Melvin did a great job. I could look at friends who are not in this room and call out Clyde Turner or Philip Webb. These guys are firefighters in our community, who grew up in Rondo just like me, doing great things. We had great institutions, the Hallie Q. Brown. How many of you even know anything about Hallie Q. Brown? Hallie Q. Brown was a settlement house in St. Paul that served the Rondo community, and if you needed anything, you were at Hallie Q. Brown. I was a Girl Scout at Hallie Q. Brown. My Girl Scout troop leader, Dorothea Burns, was my neighbor and my troop leader and worked at Hallie Q. Brown. I'm just saying it was a close-knit community and everybody was looking out for their children and their children did well. All of that was undermined by a decision that was made by the state of Minnesota, by the federal government, the state of Minnesota, the city of St. Paul. And they made a decision to run the I-94 freeway through the heart of the Rondo neighborhood. Now, there were alternatives, and if you want to read about the alternatives, go to the geography department of Macalester College and read the story about Rondo, because they'll talk to you about the details of that. But the sadness about all of this is that everything that was good was destroyed. Everything that was good, everything that we're trying to build now for stable and strong neighborhoods, we had and we destroyed it. And so there's something wrong about that. And one of the things that I learned in that experience, from my mother, from Connie Price, from Katie McWatt, and all these other women, is that we can't do anything about this, but we can do something to never let it happen again. And that has got to be our commitment, to never let it happen again. I'm 7 years old when I'm hearing these messages. I don't really know what that means, but I will tell you it left an indelible mark on my heart and in my soul, and that was going to come to life later in my years, and I didn't really even know that. So I want you to just know that me and all the other Black women that grew up in my community alongside of me, Jackie Cooper, all of us, had the same experience. And every one of us, I think, grew up with a fire in our belly to make a difference for our community and to ensure that the voices of the people who had been shut out, ignored, were heard. So I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of leadership. Again, I'm not talking about myself in this role, in this context, but I just want you to just take a moment to just think about and reflect on the leaders in our community, both past and present. Now, we just heard from Tony, and those of you who know Tony, you kind of know her trajectory, in the city of St. Paul and in Ramsey County over the years. But there are other women in our community who as well, have this long history of giving back to our community. And if we don't know who they are, you really need to ask somebody. You either need to ask somebody or need to pull out a book or get in a conversation with an elder and actually talk about and understand, who our present and our past leaders and role models have been. But the bigger question is, who in this room, what other African American women, what other women of color, what other women, period, are willing to step up and be the role models that we need in our community? Now, I can stand here and tell you that here are the disparities that exist in the African American community in particular. But I will tell you that I could say ditto for the Latino community. I could say ditto for the Native American community. I could say ditto for the Asian community. And I shouldn't have to do that. And I shouldn't be able to do that. But I can because what? There's not enough of us. There's not enough role models who are standing up and speaking out and offering this legacy of leadership that we need in order to make the change that we need in our community. I know that I was fortunate enough to have mentors, but more important than mentors, I had sponsors. The question is, do you know the difference? Raise your hand if you know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, you can't see this, but not many hands are going up. All right? And what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you two things. I need there to be more mentors. I mean, if we're going to, leverage the power of us, if we're going to celebrate our greatness, we can't let the pipeline for that greatness, fall off. It's a pipeline, right? It's supposed to be going to the next generation. So I'm going to just tell you, mentors are people who will give you some advice. Okay, you got a problem or whatever, I'm going to give you some advice. And you might be able to come back to me 3 or 4 times. What a sponsor does is the sponsor says, Sharon, I'm going to help you move from being a parole officer working for the Minnesota Department of Corrections to being the director of the Minnesota Program for Victims of Sexual Assault. You follow me, I'll help you get on that path, and I'll make sure that you get to that end game. We need people to step up and be sponsors so that tomorrow, and I don't mean that literally tomorrow, but there's a pipeline behind Tony Carter so that there's not just one African American or person of color on the county board, that's a woman, but there's a pipeline of women that are prepared and ready to take on those roles and responsibilities. And so what I'm really inviting us to think about today when we think about the power of us and leveraging the power of us is not to just invite you to mentor or sponsor one person. Every one of us needs to have at least 2. Okay, and if you can accommodate more than 2, then you need to do it, because in order for us to build on this legacy, in order for us to leverage this power, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to build the blocks for the future, the building blocks for the future, we have to have more people that we can count on to be prepared to assume those roles and responsibilities. It just doesn't happen on its own. And even if it did happen on its own, it is not enough of a supply to respond to the demands for change and leadership that we need in our community. So I don't need you to help 1, I need you to help 2. Then I want to just talk a little bit about the power of us, just to let you know that not everybody is going to be the mayor or the county commissioner or the senator or the president, etc. And the truth of the matter is, I actually need as many people who are on the outside advising those people as I need as those people on the inside making those powerful and important decisions. And I will tell you, there were times when I was the mayor of the city of Minneapolis where I did not at all appreciate the voices from the outside yelling at the people on the inside. Because I was on the inside and I was the recipient of all those voices of anger and frustration. But I will tell you something about that. Organized voices of anger and frustration can actually lead to good policy outcome. Because when we don't hear the voice, what happens? We get a solution that doesn't match the problem. So I just want to suggest to us is we need to be nurturing the external voices to make sure that they're informed, and we need to give them the audience that they need. And we then have to be prepared to be able to listen and to collaborate with them. So I need people on the outside and the inside, but I need them to all be organized and in unison so that we can make the change that we need to make. And again, my goal here today is to not talk about, aren't we some great leaders? Aren't there some great leaders? I really want to talk about how do we as leaders and how do we as a community facilitate the change that we need? Because leaders aren't just there to be leaders. We're leaders because we want something to change. And without information and without organization, nothing will change. So that's my message. The second point that I really want to make is that I think we need to go back to the basics. So what does that mean, back to the basics? So I think we need to go back to our the strength of our African American heritage, which is organizing. Okay? So in St. Paul growing up, I know that I was going to go to church and I was supposed to be there and learn all my Bible lessons, etc. But while I'm over here learning my Bible lessons and other things, the adults are in the other room, being informed and organizing. I didn't know that until I got to be old enough to go in that room, right? So what I'm just trying to say is that we need to go back to the basics and get people organized and informed. Because if we get people organized and informed, we bring that voice to the county board, the state capitol, the city hall. We can get things done. You know why? I'm a politician, okay? Politicians respond to constituents. Honestly. I mean, if you organize 1,000 people to talk to me about one issue, and you organize those people to come and talk to me about that issue every day for, a month, I'm sorry, I'm going to pay attention. But if you just send me that one voice of that really informed person who really caring and passionate, I'm going to just be able to write that off. That's just Susie talking to me about her, issue, and I love her and to death and all of that. She's a great person, but she's just one voice. I need the 1,000 voices. We need the 5,000 voices, all speaking in unison with one message. I have this big pet peeve. I'm just going to tell you this because I have the mic, right? I'm absolutely disturbed, and I have been for a number of years, about the level of homelessness that we are seeing across our country. It's not just here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's across the country. You can't go to any place in the United States of America and not find somebody sleeping in the street. And that shouldn't be happening in America. And guess what? It is, because we're not raising our voices to the level of fever pitch that's needed to get people to take some action. We all know why they're in the street. We all know that decisions were made. Public policy decisions were made, quite frankly, to close the institutions that were otherwise providing people with shelter. Might not have been the best of care, but it was care. And we probably need to improve that care, but it was care. And it's better than people sleeping in the streets on a pile of cardboard. And I'm not just talking about adults. I'm talking about children, too. This is a crime, but we can do something about that. So again, just a little bit on my soapbox, let's organize to solve the problems that we care and we're passionate about. Get back to the basics. I want to get back to the basic of socializing with a purpose. Yeah. I don't just need to go to the happy hour just to have a drink, right? Can I go to, my sorority meeting, my club meeting, my bowling club, whatever it is, and have a purpose? Yeah, we can have some fun, but we can have some fun and we can figure out how to take action. Just trying to say, go back to the basics. We need to really think about how do we motivate people, mobilize people to get things done. I'm so proud of Minnesota. I'll digress for 1 second. Minnesota was a leader. And I want to credit Minnesota women of color and white women for this. We were leaders in advancing the move to get the country to address the problem of domestic violence. That happened right here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Women said, this ain't going to happen anymore. We're going to stop this. St. Paul got women's advocates, and over in Minneapolis, we got Harriet Tubman Shelter for Battered Women. Okay? 25 years ago, we actually had to have Harriet Tubman be an underground, kind of a facility. We couldn't even tell people that we existed. It was all behind the scenes, quiet. No, we couldn't tell anybody. We couldn't tell, the police. We couldn't tell anybody where we were. It was just a message that was managed by women who got a call from somebody to say, I know a woman who needs somewhere to go, and can you get her a place? She's got 3 kids. Will you take her in? And we did that for years. This is all starting because women figured out how to get together and mobilize to make change. The same thing occurred for sexual assault. The Coalition for Sexual Assault started here in Minneapolis, and we built a national network because women decided that they had enough. You want to talk about the power of women? Allow us to get together, you know, across all races, all age groups, and talk about what really ails us, what makes us mad, what pisses us off. I can say that now because I'm not a public not a public official, and mobilize and do something about them. We have a track record. We have a history as women in doing that. We have a track record as African American women to fight for our own individual rights, but we also have a track record of working collaboratively with other women to get things done. Truth be told, I would not have been elected the mayor of Minneapolis without the collaboration of women across this state of Minnesota. Women of all backgrounds, women of all races, and also bipartisan. And you know why? Because women were fed up not having the opportunity to have some of the highest administrative positions in the state. Now, they said we're going to start with the mayor, but then we got our eyes on the governor's office. We still got our eye on the governor's office, ladies. Okay? So we're not about to chart a new course. It's still in our line of sight. So let me just make a couple of final points. If you change nothing, if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, nothing's going to change. Okay? So we can't do what we did last week, last month, last year, and think we're going to get a new outcome. So I really want to leave this message with you that if we're going to kind of build on our strength and our history, we need to figure out what's our new course. Where are we really trying to go? Been there, done that. I'm trying to get someplace else. How do I get there? We also need to talk about building stronger teams. How do we put the right team together? How do we pick people who've got the knowledge and the expertise and the ability to get things done and get them on the team? And then the other thing that I just would like to mention is that we have to engage more stakeholders. This is not a closed club. So the people who are affected by the policies and the issues that we want to address, they got to be a part of the discussion. It's not just an intellectual exercise for the powerful, the privileged, and the informed, and the trained. All people, all stakeholders have to be a part of the solution. Otherwise, nothing will change. When you just let the people at the top decide what the outcome is going to be, you're never going to really hit the high mark. You might get some things done, but you're never going to hit the high mark. And we have to, as a community, be a little bit more inclusive in the way that we think about how do we find solutions. I like to call it all hands on deck. Okay? All hands on deck. The working class hands on deck, the user hands on deck, the intellectuals, the informed, everybody, all hands on deck. Because everybody has something to add to the conversation. Everybody has something to contribute to the solution. So what do I need? How many more minutes do I have? A couple more minutes? Okay, is that one more minute? Okay, so she just told me I had one more minute. So here's what I'm going to tell you just quickly if I can. I won't tell you all the variables for hands on deck, but I'm just going to tell you this. We have to be more informed. We have to be more engaged. And we need to leverage those people who have influence in our community, because sometimes on our own we can't affect the change that we're looking for. So we need visionaries, we need strategists, we need subject matter experts, we need everybody coming to the table. And the one thing that I really want to say is that I'm going to give you some credit, Mayor Carter, for your work. You tapped into the power of African American women in our community and brought them into your administration. And I will tell you that I think I know every one of the women that you have brought into the organization, and I probably worked with them in one way or the other. So I know Sharon Vicker, your CIO, and she's one of the first African American CIOs in the country. Not the only one, but she's one of the only ones. And Sharon, it's a pleasure to see you in the audience. I think I saw Tony Newburn in here. Tony, your social equity officer. We just had Tony out at Thomson Reuters talking to our women lawyers about the challenges and issues that we have to address as women lawyers, and she did a bang up job. So you need to keep her because we might take her. Andrea Turner, who runs HR. Andrea, where you at? Did she have to step out? She probably have to take care of some HR matters. And then Valerie Jensen. Again, Valerie, where's Valerie at? She had to step out too. See, you got these women working so hard, man. But what I'm going to tell you is that that's what we need. We need leaders like Melvin, leaders like Tony to give women a chance, give us an opportunity to shine and show you our level best because we are rock stars and we know how to make things happen, okay? Last thing I want to just say is dreams don't work unless you do. We all have these dreams and aspirations about things that we want to see change, and it's really nice to have a dream. But sorry, if you dream it, it won't happen. It will only happen if you get off the sidelines, get up out of your seat, take some action, and apply some knowledge, skill, and expertise to try to get the outcome that you're looking for. So dreams don't work unless you do. So we have to work harder to get the things that we want to have happen in our community. Last thing that I want to say about leadership. Leadership is really about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. So when you're long gone, you need to have left a trail and a legacy and have been a catalyst for the kinds of change that you need to see in your community. If you're one and done, that's not where it's at. I'm not trying to be the one and only African American female mayor of the city of Minneapolis because it's not about that. If I'm the only one, then we failed. If I'm the only one, if you're the only one, we've failed. Build that pipeline and be the change that we need in our community. And we have the power to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you so much, Sharon Sayles-Belton, for that awesome inspiration. She's challenged us with a lot of different things. I'm going to go really fast. She challenged us to be a sponsor. She's challenging us to take it back to the basics. And she's challenging us to be more informed, more engaged, and to leverage our influence. And I hope that you take up that challenge. I just want to thank a few people for this event. I want to thank former Mayor Sharon Sayles-Belton for coming out. I want to thank our performers, Shay, Aisha. I also want to thank Baby Carter for staying put to make sure that our mayor is able to come on today. We want to thank Commissioner Carter. Thank you, Beverly. We want to thank all of you for coming and enjoying this awesome event. I want to thank the Black History Planning Committee for making it possible. Daddy's Kitchen, who provide the meals for us. Miss Faye, Carrie Johnson, and Shamika Griffin provided the desserts. So thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a great day.